Session we will see about dry running and the requirements that are there to prepare for it. Okay, so let's go through the video. In this video we will see dry run and how to prepare for it. What are the things you need necessary to do this dry run, and why are we going to do this dry run? Okay, dry run is the process of doing the program or the code that you have written manually on a piece of paper, okay, without using a computer. So normally when you write a code, you write the code and give it to the computer to do something. No, so and why do you write a code? You write a code to do certain thing that you want. So before giving it to the computer, you have to check it whether this code that you have written will actually give you what you want. So this is why dry run becomes very important. So in the dry run process, you can take it and manually do it and see if we give this to the computer, whether the computer is going to actually give us what we want. Okay, so that is why it says dry running is something that you do on a piece of paper without using a computer. So computer does not get involved in the dry run process. Okay, that is we act like the computer in the dry run process. So the computer's role, we manually do it and go through that entire process and see, okay, are we getting what we really wanted if we execute this code? That is basically what we are checking through this dry run process. Okay, so again, we act like the computer in the dry run process and check whether what we have written does what we want as the output. Okay, or as what the end result, whether we are getting what we are written is correct to get the end result that we are expecting. That is what basically we do. And remember, we do not use the actual computer for this dry run process. Okay, and as I told you earlier, this will help us to understand whether the code we have written will perform what we intended. For example, I'll give you a dumb example. Let's say you want to go to point A, right? Now what you want is you want to go to point A. Now if you actually start going to point B, physically you walk towards B, will you reach A? You won't know. Actually you won't do that, but this is the two things that we are talking about. The want is to go to A, but actually you're doing is you're going towards B. So the two things are different. Very important to understand that what you write may not be properly expressed as what you want. So like I explained earlier, you want to go to A, but now you're walking towards B. So you will never reach A. So A is the want, B is what you are written, you are actually doing. So actual doing and your want should both match. Then only you will get your actual final product. So that is very important. To understand this or to figure out this only, dry run helps us. Okay, so this will help us to understand whether the code we have written will perform what we intended. Okay, you can always argue and say, yes, we will write always the code that we intend to achieve, but you take it from me, I have written so many programs that never happens. You want to do something and you write down, and the thing you have written down actually finally does not produce what you really want. So there is a difference always between this. When these two match only, our code is perfect. Okay, so remember that. So that to check this part only, we need this dry run process. Okay, so the dry run process will help us to understand whether the code we have written will perform what we intended for the code to do. Before we execute it in a computer, before we put the code into the computer, we dry run it and check it to make sure, okay, this code we have written is seems fairly decent, and it should achieve what we really want. To understand that only, we have to do the dry running. Okay, note, this is what I explained earlier. What we want the code to do and what we have written in the code can differ. If you are perfect, okay, if you can promise all the time you will always be writing, it's good. But you take it from me, it never gets done like that. Okay, what you want is the requirement. What you write, generally in one shot you can't get exactly what you want by writing it. If you are doing it, very good. That's good. If you can achieve that, it's very good. But in this environment, this is a very common thing. What you want and what you write are generally different until you correct it, clear it, change it, modify it, rewrite several times, and finally you will achieve. I'm not talking about small things, okay? Not small programs. When you're writing a system or something like that, these sort of things are very important to remember. So there is a part called want, what we really want to achieve, and what we are actually writing down to achieve that. And if these two differ, you will never get what you really want. So to check this difference is the dry run process. Dry run process will help us easily and quickly to understand and rectify that, correct it. Okay. So dry run helps you to identify this difference between the want and written and correct it before you give it to the computer. Because when you dry run and see, as we will see in the future lessons or sessions, when you dry run, you exactly understand what your code is really doing. And then you will understand, okay, I really wanted this, but I have written something else. That kind of a understanding will come out when you start dry running. So I will right now tell you, please do not skip dry running. Okay, every program you write, as much as possible, keep dry running. Dry running is like riding the bicycle. You will fall, come out, do everything, but finally you will learn only through that, and you will learn it properly. Okay, so dry running is a very crucial component in this writing code development part. Okay. Right. Let's see the requirements. What are the things how do we dry run? What are the things we need? First thing is we are going to do this dry running in our NS chart. So we will obviously have all these four symbols when you are writing the code. Using these four symbols only, you write the code in NS chart. Okay. So your program or code will come inside this. And this is what we are going to dry run. But this alone is not enough for us to dry run, because every program will have some way of instructions to deal with. Okay, there will be a lot of instructions. These are the NS chart is just a structure. You have to have instructions. So we will take the least amount of instruction necessary for us to understand the programming concept. So I have selected on three instructions only to use in our dry running. When you actually get it down to real programming code, you will find additional instructions coming in and so on. But by the time you would have figured out what programming concepts are. So for us to figure out the programming concepts, I think these three instructions will be sufficient. Okay, so we will just use these three instructions. First instruction is to, if you want to show something on the screen, if you are going to tell the computer show something on the screen, we will need an instruction. That is the output instruction. Okay, we will come to the instruction itself in a minute. Then we will need an instruction to get something from the keyboard, like the ATM machine. When you go to ATM machine, put your card in, it will ask you the PIN code. So it has to take in something with the PIN code in that case. And after taking the PIN code, it will ask you what do you want to do? Do you want to deposit? Do you want to withdraw? Again, through the keyboard, you type something. That also the computer has to take in. So anything you type through keyboard or some kind of input device, the computer has to take in. So we need a command for that, right? So one command we have to show on the screen, one command to take from the keyboard we need. Otherwise, we will not be able to use this NS chart and do the dry run. So we need one command for this. We need one command for accepting from the keyboard. And the third command we will need is to manage the memory. Memory means main memory, right? Not the secondary storage. We are in the program, what the memory we are dealing with are main memory, and that is, as we have already seen, variables. Numeric variable, alphanumeric variable, we have already looked at. Where are these going to be kept? They are going to be kept in the main memory. So the third command we need is to handle these memory variables, numeric variables or alphanumeric variables in the memory. So these are the three commands I'm going to use in addition to the NS chart symbols. And using this, we will be writing code in our future sessions. Okay, so only three things: the four NS chart symbols, the process, decision, then the loop while and the loop until. Those plus three commands to do the output: one to output, one for input, and one to handle the memory variables. So these three commands. So let's finally decide exactly how we are going to use a command. Okay, because this is NS chart, this is not actual computer. We can decide what the command is like, or what are we going to call the command. Okay, so let's see that. First is for showing purpose. For this purpose, we can use anything like, you can have show or display or write or sprint or something like that, which indicates to us we are going to tell the computer to show something on the screen, display, write, print, put. If you want to use put or put, any of those is okay. But in my example, in my NS chart throughout, I'm going to use the word show as the output command. So whenever I want to put something on the screen, I will just say show and give what needs to be shown. Then the computer will show that on the screen. That's how we will assume. Okay, so that is one of the commands. Second command is to get it from the input. For input, again we can use instructions or commands like get or accept or input or read or take or anything that indicates we are going to get something from the outside into the computer. So in this case, I'm going to use the command called get. Okay. So for output, I'm going to use the command show. For input, I'm going to use the command get. And finally, for the assignment purpose or memory handling or variable handling, I'm going to use this arrow. So basically, I will be using only these three commands in addition to the 4 NS chart symbols to write our coding. Okay, show, get, and this arrow. These are the three. Arrow to handle the main memory variables, show to display on the screen, get to get it from the keyboard. Okay, just remember those.